New report on job losses impacting the nation's economy. It says DOGE-related cuts within the federal government are behind nearly half of all job cuts in the United States so far this year. More than 280,000 layoffs in all. Let's discuss this and more with Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz, a Florida congressman. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you were what's being described as the first Democrat to join the so-called DOGE caucus. You said you believe in, quote, streamlining government processes and reducing ineffective government spending. Is that what you've seen? And have these cuts been good for the country so far?
No, Wolf. First of all, let's just talk about the first 100 days. I mean, maybe the only president to have a worse 100 days was William Henry Harrison. I mean, it's just been absolutely disastrous. First of all, the DOGE caucus in Congress is dead. It's defunct. It met twice. I was there and never met again. They weren't included in any conversation. So the DOGE caucus in Congress officially dead. DOGE of the executive branch, a complete failure. They have not met their goals by 85%. And they didn't do any efficiency. Nothing in government is more efficient. They just did dog. They forgot the E part. And so it's been a complete and utter failure. That's why Elon's had to run away back to his company. He's ruined his name, he's ruined his company, and he's gone on to ruin the federal government. And so look, consumer sentiment is down to the lowest level to 1990. GDP obviously is underwater, completely reversed. The tariffs are the biggest man-made economic disaster of the modern era.
Strong words indeed, Congressman. We've also learned that the U.S. economy contracted during the first 3 months of this year. That's the worst showing since 2022. Many economists blame President Trump's policies, including, of course, his tariffs, the trade war. But the president is pointing the finger at former President Biden. How do you respond to that?
I thought Biden was in the basement, right? I thought Biden didn't have all his faculties, but yet they continue to do this two things with Biden, like, oh, he's slow and he wasn't with it, but yet he's this mastermind. Let's be clear. Donald Trump said this was his stock market in January of this year. January 24th, he put out a nice tweet and said, this is the Trump stock market. And then on April 30th, he put out, this is the Biden stock market. What happened? Oh, it was Liberation Day. Liberation Day. He liberated the American economy of $5 trillion. And so, look, this was a major mistake of theirs. They didn't calculate how this would go. They tariffed the whole world, including the penguins at the same time, friend and foe alike. They didn't do reciprocal. It was more, they can't make all these deals in time because they got to deal with governments that then have to vote on things. And so, yeah, look, they've walked a lot of this back. They've walked it back because they're trying to save the bond market from completely collapsing. And so, look, I want the president to figure a way out of this, right? I don't want the economy to collapse. I don't want the American people to lose money in their pensions and their stock market. I don't want people to be laid off. And so I do want him to find a way out. And if he wants to work with Congress, we can do that. But, you know, Congress took power away. The Republicans took power away to even be involved in tariffs and gave it to the president. And so, look, I hope he finds a way out of this for the American people.
Let's see if that happens. Congressman, I also want to get your reaction to something President Trump said during a News Nation town hall when asked to name the biggest mistake of his first 100 days. Listen to this.
I'll tell you, that's the toughest question I can have because I don't really believe I've made mistakes.
You made any mistakes.
We're in a transition period.
All right, Congressman, no mistakes. What's your reaction?
Well, I don't know, Wolf. Is Canada the 51st state? Have you bought a condo in Gaza? I mean, is Greenland part of the United States yet? I mean, I could go on. I mean, clearly the tariffs are the largest mistake that he has made. And by the way, if you listen to Republican podcasts, what they're saying, I think really is true, is that, look, some of their ideas had merit, but the execution of what they did is what has killed all of this. Finding government waste, good idea. Execution, total failure, right? Trying to figure out how to bring jobs back to America, good idea. Execution, total failure. And so it's been the execution of how they've done this. Rather than doing it with a scalpel, they've done it with a chainsaw. And that's what has been the mistake.
You know, I'm hearing from friends down in your district in Boca Raton that a lot of Canadians who normally visit Boca Raton, tourists, are coming to Boca Raton and other communities in Florida right now in protest of what Trump is saying about Canada becoming the 51st state. Have you noticed a drop in Canadian tourism to Florida?
Yeah, it's 80% less is what we're seeing in the travel data. And yeah, they don't want to come. And look, we're getting into better weather for folks in Canada. So as we're getting out of that season, we're not going to see as large of an impact. But when we get back into season, I mean, I expect businesses to suffer, unfortunately, in Florida and in America. And it's not just the Canadians. We're seeing this sentiment, obviously, around the world. And so, look, this is not too late to reverse. Okay, some of this damage will take time to fix. But figuring out a way out now is what this administration needs to do. I mean, look, Donald Trump, you know, he's good at winning elections in America. He's also good at swinging elections in Canada. The guy was losing by 20 points, and Donald Trump said, make it the 51st state. And he wound up winning, and the party won the election. And so, look, the Canadians are paying attention to this. And this was not the fight to pick with Canada.
It's not just the Canadians. People all over the world are paying a lot of attention to what's going on here in the United States. On a separate issue, Congressman, Kamala Harris gave her major first speech since leaving last night, and she used her remarks to go directly after President Trump's policies and which he called his greatest man-made economic crisis. I want to play a clip of what she said. Listen to this.
Some people are describing what's been happening in recent months as absolute chaos. And of course, I understand why. And it's certainly true of those tariffs. Tariffs that, as I predicted, are clearly inviting a recession.
Do you think, Congressman, the former vice president speaking out now publicly, as she did last night, is going to be helpful for Democrats?
Well, look, it's good to see her back. I'm glad she's out there. Obviously, we'll have to see what she wants to do on a go-forward basis, what she wants to run for, or want to have a position. But she has a big voice in the party, right? She was our last nominee. She's the former vice president. And yes, she was right on tariffs, as was every economist. But look, Trump is doing everything he said. I know there were people who were like, oh, he doesn't mean it. Right? But he's doing everything he said. The only thing he hasn't done is he hasn't had dinner with Hannibal Lecter. Everything else that he said on that stage, he has done exactly as he said it. I'm sorry some people didn't think he was telling the truth. But again, I want the president to succeed. I don't want him to continue to ruin the economy. I want him to figure out how to fix this. I got seniors who depend on their pensions. I got seniors that depend on their Social Security, their Medicare, their Medicaid, which they're talking about cutting up here. And so we have to figure out how to now get ourselves out of this now that we've opened Pandora's box. I mean, I can tell you, I meet with ambassadors because I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee, okay, and I'm not going to name different countries, but they all recognize that this is an economic disaster created by America. That's a different conversation than wanting to bring jobs back to America. Look, I was the director of emergency management for Ron DeSantis during COVID. I saw the supply chain issues. Right? We do have to onshore some jobs. We could have done that when we spent $6 trillion in the Trump administration, the Biden administration. We could have figured out how to onshore jobs. That was a missed opportunity. But we can do it now. We can't tariff the whole world and bring all those jobs back because then the cost of goods is going to go up dramatically. Trump talked about how, you'll only be able to afford $2 instead of 30. It's a weird analogy for an 80-year-old president. But at the end of the day, costs are going to go up. And we have to figure out how to make things more affordable for Americans.
Congressman Jared Moskowitz, a member of both the Foreign Affairs and Judiciary Committees, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.